And here we go.
Yeah.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mechanics Chess Social, which is usually on Fridays, but today it's going to be on Wednesday afternoon since Friday's New Year's Day. I'm Abel Talamantes, chess director at the Mechanics Institute, and joining me, as always, is Judith Stare. And we have a very, very special guest with us today. We have John D. Rockefeller V. And we are going to be asking him about his interests in chess and a lot of things about the Maryland Chess Association, his involvement in the national scholastic events, and we'll also talk about his support of the U.S. Chess Federation. Thank you for coming on and being with us here at the Mechanics Institute.
Well, Abel, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Excellent. So, tell us a little bit about your background and interest in chess. Like, how did you get involved? Is it something that for you has been a part of your life since Scholastic, or is it something you got involved with later?
Yeah, I think I'm in the category of chess dad. That's really so I played a little bit when I was a kid. I never played in a tournament. I play casually with older men, I don't know, people in my life, that kind of thing.
Huh?
But no tournament, no school club or anything like that. And played a lot with actually my grandfather when I would see him in New York. But then took I think about a 25-year break. And was playing with my two daughters. We were playing a lot of Connect Four.
Yes.
I
That's good.
love Connect Four.
Yeah,
I love that
sure.
game. But after about game 500, you're kind of done with it.
It's like tic tac toe.
Uh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'd exhausted all that it had to offer us, and so I just kind of thought, well, they're getting older, and they're intellectually, more able to handle more complicated games. What else is there out there? And I'd always have this picture of my grandfather in my living room, and it was a picture of the two of us playing chess. And he had died in 1978. It was taken in, I think, the summer of 77. So it was shortly before he died, and that just had been my connection to chess. And so I thought, I think I remember how the pieces move, but I mean nothing more than that. I didn't know, right hand, right square, white square, none of that. I didn't know en passant. I doubt I even knew about queenside castling.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I probably remembered castling, but just where a lot of parents come back to chess, which is, very, okay, it's been a while. And so we started playing, and I really loved it. And this was 2008. So I Googled my daughter's school's name and chess, and there was a chess club. So I said, oh, great. Okay, I'll do this. And there was a guy named Chris Kim, and he said, oh yeah, do you want to meet my daughters? Because my daughters knew his daughters. They were about a 1 or 2 years gap, but they knew them in the hallway kind of thing,
Yeah.
And so we went over, and he goes, hey, do you want to watch them play? And I was like, yeah, this would be awesome. And they started playing Blitz, and it was just mind-boggling, that the pieces could even just be moved that fast, much less with thought behind it. It was insane. And they were not at the time, they were good but not great. But they Leo's daughter, she was both what is now, but also was Maryland's Denker representative one year. And then his other daughter, Charlotte rather, she ultimately became a Herring representative as well. So they were good players. But my daughters just loved it, and we started doing a chess club, and started coaching it, and started going to tournaments, and you start volunteering, you get involved, and then you realize, oh my goodness, this isn't some well, unlike with you where you have a real nice professional system, with staff and all this. It was all volunteers, and one person away from complete meltdown, failure, the thing not existing. So it's just slowly getting involved that way.
And so, at what point did it transition into something where you got even more interested beyond just the school club? Because you went the level where you got interested. I mean, I see in the background Maryland Chess Association, getting involved with the U.S. Chess in terms of the national events. What kind of triggered that switch from kind of more local to something a little bigger?
Right. Well, it was the scholastic director at the time, Mike Reagan, wanted to start. His kids were getting older, and kind of that kind of typical situation where they start losing interest in chess. Unfortunately, sometimes, especially if your dad's into it, it almost like can sometimes. Or Judith hasn't had that problem. Maybe that's a mother-daughter thing. Your daughters are really good, but my kids, I did not have that. So he said, "Look, I really want to start doing directing open tournaments, and I need someone to step in." And so it was either, and there was no one else was kind of in the offing waiting, like oh, me. It was or else this thing is going to fall apart. So I started getting involved with that, and I just remember it's one of those things where it's not unique about chess. It's any kind of organization, you have no idea actually how much work is being done in the background. So I remember thinking at my was it my first tournament where I was kind of studying and looking to see how things would work and all this kind of stuff, and it had never occurred to me that trophies needed to be purchased and transportation to be right. They were just always there at presentation,
Yeah, yeah.
So I go, oh my goodness, I have to do this, and how do the trophies actually get to the platform for the ceremony? Just thinking through all, and you realize there's so much that can go wrong. And I've been involved in tournaments that really did go wrong. I remember one in particular where it was 7:28 p.m. and we were handing out trophies for the K-3 primary section, which I think was an under 400 section. It was just ridiculously late. And we actually, the trophies hadn't been organized. They were just kind of at a haphazard manner, not divided by section, much less by, in order. And so I was handing out the trophies. Someone else was reading out, the standings, and I was handing out the trophies. And I remember just the angrier the parent, the larger the trophy they got. And I'm not kidding about that. I mean, it was just like, they were so furious to be there that late. And there were a lot of parents from Virginia too, because we were in Baltimore at the time. So then I realized, okay, organization really, really matters. And I want, if I'm going to be TDing for something, and certainly I'm more going to think through these things.
I see Judith shaking her head up there. Her and I were part of a trophy ceremony that had about 1,300 kids, where we're reading out the trophies, and then we discover that all the first and seventh place trophies weren't part of the mix. So the parents had been waiting there for hours, and then we get to announce, okay, and then the first place trophy, that the first place isn't there, and then we have to arrange it. Yeah, I mean it is.
But yeah, I've done things where, I mean, this is on me. It was my fault. This is what, once I was experienced, I really should have known better. But we'd have TDs on the floor, and then I would go up and do trophy ceremony for the various sections, and I would just reach out to a parent. I'd say, hey, will you mind helping hand out the trophies? And the problem is I would fail to point to the section for the trophies, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be in the general area. So like invariably about fourth, fifth place, someone would say, hey, wrong section. So we'd have to, put the trophies back, then read all the, you just realize like how simple, how hard can that be? And then yet, a couple of times we've blown it, and you realize, oh my goodness, there are a lot of details that need to be handled. And if you don't have paid staff, it gets even that much harder.
Yes, and also I feel that people think that, okay, you have 100 size event, and then you have a 200, well, that just scales linearly. But really from going from 100, 200, 500, 1,000, and 1,300 or something, it exponentially brings out the problems, and it's just something you have to always think about, especially with kids, because you can't risk the safety of the kids, right, in a bigger tournament.
Right. Well, and along those lines, I remember it was once, I don't remember the year, probably 2011 or something, but Maryland Chess McDuffie Memorial was the name of the tournament. And I messed up the board numbers and unfortunately messed them up at the top section. So I get all the way down. We had about 250 players, and I get down to the last section where we can put 6 for table because they're the smallest, youngest kids. We can really cram them in. And I realized I'm 3 boards short. And then I go, how is this possible? And then I realized, and I had to go back. This was about 8:50. Our round started at 9:30, maybe about 9:20. I had to go all the way back up, about 140 board numbers, getting them back and then resetting them all. And so I realized if you're gonna make a mistake, don't make it at the beginning when you first start setting out your board numbers. Make it at the end.
So a lot of people don't know that you are actually a senior tournament director and you just passed your FIDE arbiter exam. So you were a national arbiter.
Congratulations.
And you passed a FIDE arbiter exam. So that's something that I think a lot of organizers and a lot of casual players, they don't realize how important it is when you actually helping out designing events or organizing events to actually have that experience. So I always I like pointing that out for future TDs to really work on your professional development, and you are a good example for that.
Right. And depending on but I absolutely hear what you're saying, but my sense is usually at the state level, and unless you're talking maybe huge state level, like say California or New York or Texas or something, but at Maryland, I mean, we've had tournaments up to 800 players, but then they got too big, so we had to break it up. So currently we usually don't have we rarely have a tournament that exceeds 300, 350, and that's not usually the case. Normally they're in the 100 to 150 range. And my experience is as long as you have one senior, one TD with a lot of experience, you can have a lot of volunteers with experience. And, lots of times they will have gotten their club TD, they'll apply for that, but that's, essentially an automatic process. And then we train them and we say, here's what you do, here's what they do.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll want to think about, going to the next level, and then they'll request the exam and they'll look at that exam and say, if they have full-time jobs, I mean, you really do have to study that book if you're going to pass those exams. And then they'll frankly just kind of let their TD status lapse, but it's okay because they've been trained. So even at that level, they're expired. But as long as you're as a senior TD, or by senior I don't mean that level, I just mean someone with experience.
Yeah.
As long as you have one person who really knows what to do, and then it's amazing how much volunteers can just really help out with just being. Remember being. It was that moment where you have kids and you realize you have to become the coach. So I started coaching my daughter's soccer team, and I realized, oh my God! And so I had 1 year of training, and then I was the head guy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But no, you're so much older and more mature than you better be the coach as opposed to a player or something. And then they'll follow you if you give directions. So just have some sense of organization. I actually remember once we were at a soccer match, and they brought in a referee, so kind of TD equivalent, and this guy was so indecisive, and he wanted to get the exact right call, but so he hesitated for a long, ball out of whatever the phrase is, out of bounds, I guess.
Yeah.
And I at time I went up to him and I said, look, I'm not one of those parents. I'm not one of those coaches who's yelling at you. I don't even really care. I just want to have fun. In fact, I don't care if you call every single ball against our team, but please just make a call, because they're just standing there looking at you, waiting for someone to tell us what to do. And I said, just any direction is fine. Make a call. But that was like, a high school kid just growing up, and he had never been that experienced. He hadn't had much experience that way of, oh my gosh, I'm in charge.
And it's almost worse for a tournament director to be indecisive because you're really holding up the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know that, for example, the 75 move rule. I mean, you just got, there are rules there that you can invoke that you can, you don't have to have a game. I remember once early in TD career, and I wasn't in charge I wasn't chief TD, so there were just these 2 kids, and they both had just kings only left, And they went on for 10 or 15 minutes, and there was, some strong Scholastic players saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "Look, these are the rules. I have to let this, play itself out." And I really didn't really understand then at the time. Oh no, there are rules you can have that you can invoke so that you don't, drag down the tournament just because these two kids don't know how to mate with obviously insufficient mating material. They can't mate. So, but the 75 rule is good because I think at the time, I think that's in the last 5 years or so,
Right.
that didn't exist. And then at some point you could intervene. I realized, okay, you can just make a call. Like at some point, you got to do this.
Especially the lower sections at a
Right,
Scholastic.
right, right, right,
Where you
right,
say, okay, do you agree we're done? Do you agree we're done? All right, we're
right,
done.
right, right. Exactly, exactly, exactly.
How did you make that jump to national national Scholastic chess? Just out of your love and interest of Scholastics, or?
Um, well, I would say so. There's Mike Atkins was a former EB executive board member of U.S. Chess, and he had lived in Maryland, was living in Virginia at the time, and I'd gotten to know him through some Maryland Open tournaments, that kind of thing. And he sent me an email and said, "Hey, U.S. Chess is putting together this development committee.
Mhm.
Very low level requirement. Do you think you'd be interested?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, that sounds good. U.S. Chess means a lot to me." Or actually, I should say, at the time, I didn't really clearly didn't fully appreciate how important U.S. Chess is because, going back to that experience at the time, I remember thinking, I mean, how important is U.S. Chess? They rate our tournaments, great, whatever. And then once you get a little more involved, you realize, oh my goodness, it's like the trophies being delivered. Like I didn't even realize I had to think about that. It just
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, yeah.
You just submitted the tournament, and there it was. And then you realize. So he invited me to do that, and so it was a little bit of a sleepy committee, I'll admit, for a couple years there. But once U.S. Chess hired Jeff Isaac as the director of development, then it was okay. Because I think it was 2014 when they switched to a 501c3.
Yeah.
But they've been a 501c4, but they had not been, a 50 was a charitable organization, but not with tax exempt status.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And it requires a mind shift too, right? Which is then you're no longer just servicing the members; you have a larger mission to society at large, which I think U.S. Chess had, but not organizationally.
Legally. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, and certainly not legally, right? So then we, just got more involved and we're, doing more stuff there. And then I know I'd gone to, several Scholastic events with my kids, Super Nationals a couple times, that kind of thing. And then Mike Atkins reached out to me and said, "Hey, my father was a U.S. senator at the time from West Virginia." And Mike said, "Hey, we're trying to get National Chess Day passed. Do you think your dad could help?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'll reach out to him and see if he's willing to." And so he got more involved that way and tried to help. I mean, it was really his staff, but trying to do that, and it was actually harder than you think, than one might unfortunately think. Then they gave him an award at the end of the U.S. Open. And so I went down and received it on his behalf. And that was the first time I'd been to a U.S. Open and seen the delegates meetings. And Mike said, "Oh, do you want to stay an extra day and just kind of be a delegate from Maryland?" I think he got me in via the contiguous state exception. So I was actually technically, I think, the representative of Virginia or somehow, I can't remember how it worked out, but it worked out fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome." Wow, these guys are like really into the rules and debating. I remember Tim Just and Steve Emmett had this kind of, epic, a friendly fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've seen
like,
that.
yeah, exactly. So you realize, like, wow, this stuff really matters and people really care about it. And then I just started getting more involved. Sunil as well. I knew Sunil Warmontry. I met him in 2009 at All Girls Nationals. He'd asked me to be on the Scholastic Committee, and then just slowly got more and more involved. And then obviously with the invitationals and stuff going online this year, that became even more. I became more involved. So the pandemic kind of freed me up so that because at Maryland Chess, we had been running a tournament every other weekend, so 21 annual tournaments, and there's just, a lot of administrative work there. And then that, and we are not, we don't run this classic tournaments that you all do. So we've kind of, frankly, unfortunately, just taken kind of a pause, but then that's freed me up to just do a lot of, volunteer work with US Chess.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so we work together on Scholastic Council. You were awarded into the Scholastic Council this August, I think. And so, and you're also working on the development committee, and you're also chair of that committee, and then you're working with the invitationals, right?
Right, exactly.
So, yeah. And it's really, I want to echo what you said, that really getting it closer and getting more involved, you realize how much work there is and how much it matters. So when you're just a little club player in any of the clubs and you get your games rated and that's it, or even if you're just an organizer and you don't see USCF as a little bit more inside, you really have no idea how much work it's going in and how much it matters. And delegates meeting as well, there's a lot of important decisions and discussions there, which is really, really interesting. So we encourage everyone, if you guys want to, you can always get involved, any of the committees or other advisory positions, as well as you can get more involved and you can get invited to these committees and do some volunteer work for US Chess, because I know that they need that.
And just to the viewers watching, the amount of volunteer work and the impact of that work that some of these committees, especially one like the Scholastic Council, is just immense. So I commend both of you, because I know when I talked to Judith about hey, what happened in the meeting, how was it? I mean, it was like hours of meeting, and then multiple hours, and deciding how you're going to keep chess going during online, and rules changes and what have you. And it's a ton of work, and and I know it can seem like a thankless thing, but I thank you, at least, and I know a lot of other people thank you both for everything you do and the committee does, because without you, I don't know where we would be where we're at with a lot of Scholastic Chess continuing on online, and having it done in a way where we feel confident in the integrity of the larger game, that it's being maintained. So thank you for all the volunteerism.
Well, and that's how I really got to know Judith. I mean, it was, through the first high school senior online rapid, and just working with her and seeing her, working her magic, behind the curtain. And I was just kind of a lowly floor TD for that. But you realize all the stuff that can go wrong. If the server crashes, and I didn't even know what PN commands were. All this kind of stuff, just going, oh my god. They start? No. That's the way it will be in a year or two. Some of the platforms incorporate Swisses, so it'll be a seamless transition, but we're not there yet. And so there's just a lot of nuts and bolts of, it's almost like, if you've, been in the hospital or something, you have to you got injured or something, you have to kind of learn how to walk again. It's almost, physical therapy of doing the basics, everything you take for granted, then all of a sudden becomes, no, this, you had to learn this, and it's hard. And if someone doesn't know how to do it, complete failure.
Yeah, and I think we were working together as we started learning how to walk, right? And it's a very interesting thing how to see how online chess is evolving, even just month to month, right? We had the online senior, I think, first weekend in June, and we had several phone calls and planning meetings for that, and that was really fun. Work together and make sure we have good rules, and for the record, for the viewers, like, one of John's talents is very meticulous about the details in terms of rules and documents. So you're really, really good at that. So we complement each other very good.
Yeah.
I think so. As long as you're behind the computer doing all the real work.
And you prove everything that goes out, we are good. And so then we had the invitationals, which was especially like better than the high school senior online, but still, we were really struggling to walk there. And I feel that even though the K-12 showdown wasn't a success in terms of the younger kids, the high school portion, the junior middle school and high school portion, the chess.com portion, I think that was pretty successful, and people fail to recognize and acknowledge that part went pretty smooth. And so I think that was because we had the same staff on the invitationals, and so we had in that part. So I think if we look at the bigger picture of how we are learning, and with every event we take home something, and then next event will be even better. So I look forward to the next online big event, because I think we can show how we are learning and keep evolving. So
Sure. And then, you learn from your mistakes. I mean, the real crime is if you, don't do something interesting enough that you would ever be in a position to commit mistakes. That means you're not trying, you're not doing anything interesting.
yeah.
But then B, when you do make mistakes, and US Chess has made some mistakes with the showdown, we have to learn from them. Like we say, it's unacceptable not to learn from them. So we just kind of go, okay, now we know what went wrong, and now we have to fix it for the next time so we can rebuild trust.
And I think one of the things that we're going to work on is the online scholastic regulations, right?
Right.
Because Scholastic Council, one of the rules, one of the tasks that Scholastic Council have each year is to review the scholastic regulations for the upcoming school year. And we did that back in June, hoping that we'll go back to over the board even in the fall. And we really hope that the grade level will be on over the board. And so we didn't really focus on online regulations, but now we are basically facing that this actually might go on a little bit longer than we thought. That's what we are working on with John and with the other Scholastic Council members. So I know.
But regardless of whether it's online or over the board, I'm 90+% certain that USGS is going to be rolling out a new process with the registration process. So, which will be this. It was a guy. There was Michael Schumann. It was on the development committee. He came up with this idea of, hey, it would be nice if, the idea of sponsoring players is just a great idea, right? For Scholastic Nationals where you travel to it. And just the idea of having a place where you could donate or whatever, great, but people rarely kind of think, proactively go do that. But if you're registering, while you're registering your players for a tournament, you're already in that mode. You're already thinking of, the tournament. So his idea was, what if, we could, you could just click a button. You say, I'll sponsor a player, whatever. So we've been working with US Chess on that. And so I would, reach out and I would, ask Sunil Vermontry, Jeff Bulington, Tina Schweiss, Jay Stallings, just ask, so approximately what does it cost? And the rough figure we came up with is it costs really about $1,000 to bring a player to a tournament, multiple days, fly them in, eat, hotel room, that kind of thing. So one thing we're going to roll out with registration is if you have the means and if you want to sponsor a player, you can do so. But then also, it's not just for one player. So we're gonna have multiple levels, and it'll show if you really want to help a team have the full, not quite VIP treatment, but it's the best exposure to do the team. Yeah, a team room, which sometimes people don't know about. I didn't know about my first nationals. I just thought all these kids were in the Skittles room. Like, no, there are some teams that reserve full rooms for sometimes 5 or 10 players. 15, 20, 30, 50.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of money. And then a lot of the, wealthier private schools and also some of the public schools who've really been around and know what they're doing, they'll have, titled coaches who will analyze the game. So all these kids will go and then they'll come back and it'll just be, required, go over your game and analyze your game with the coach. And that makes such a difference, So we kind of calculated, I think the highest we got was if you want to sponsor a team for $30,000, up to 30 players for a private team room, and I think the figure was one coach per 10 players was about the right amount. There's a $43,000 option. So just not that we're expecting a whole lot of people to donate $43,000 while registering a player, but just to give them the sense of that's what this is what all this costs. So we were talking about the organization of what it requires to organize a tournament. On the flip side, here's what it requires to attend a tournament. If you're flying from California and that stuff.
Yeah, and we do have to.
People afford it, and
And we do have two really good teams here, Weibel and Mission San Jose, who used to be scoring some of the titles at the nationals. And I know it's every year they focus and fundraise for that specific trip,
right.
because it's a lot. And to be honest, I never even thought about going to a national with my kid, because it's a lot of money. So.
Yeah. Sure.
So you stay local, and unless you really have a talented kid who it's worth. Well, I mean, it's not worth investing in. That sounds bad, but that's.
I know what you mean. And well, that's the other thing is that the parent has to either not work for at least Friday, right? I mean, you have to usually travel on Thursday, so you're taking off Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
And
then
but if
travel back on Monday, so.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of commitment. So we always commend the parents who go to nationals and the coaches and the teams. It's a lot of work from everyone, not just the player preparing.
But they'll definitely remember that. I remember my daughters, even when they were at age where they really didn't want to be playing in many more chess tournaments. We went to Super Nationals, and I think our first was 2009, and even by 2013 they were kind of phasing out. So, but I said, I made a plug. Hey, you want to go back to Super Nationals? And then I said, oh, it's it's in Nashville at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel. And I kind of triggered a little bit of a recollection of Laura. She goes, oh, is that the place with the waterfall? I said, yeah. She goes, oh, it's sick. That's awesome. Yeah, let's go. So, and I told this story to Jeff Buellington, and he was appalled. He thought, well, if they're not there for the love of chess. And I said, look, I'll take whatever it can take. If it's the waterfall or just the giant fish swimming in the man-made river around, if that's what gets them there, I'll take it. To this day, he really kind of disagrees. He doesn't think that that's an ethically justifiable.
Purist.
Right?
And for those who don't know Jeff Buellington, he's the famous coach who was on 60 Minutes. I think it was CBS, I think,
CBS.
or something.
Yeah, CBS.
CBS 60 Minutes, and he's the head coach of a very rural Mississippi area district, and he made wonders with that.
Yeah.
Those kids and those school districts, and he's doing some really amazing work there, as well as study, actually, because he does this for research purposes as well, and he basically will be able to show some of the findings and the correlation between chess and school performance and things like that. So
yeah.
I look forward to this research coming out.
Yeah, and I think he's a Class A player. And there's that great moment when you're a coach. I am a Class Z player, let's call it. There's that great moment where you see a kid, you spend enough time with a kid, and they get better. So I'm 1278, or I can't remember what. I could do the math, but
congratulations.
Yeah. But when you first train that first player who gets better than you, I mean, that's such a great experience, And so on Jeff's level, I think it was a year or two ago where one of his players either became 1900 or maybe perhaps now even is an expert. And so, yeah, he's done a great job there, no question.
Yeah.
And John, so you've made a lot of headlines recently with your support of U.S. chess that'll carry the scholastics for years into the future. Tell us a little bit about that and how that came about, and because it's truly a special thing to see that kind of support, because I think it sort of generates a willingness for others to then support when you see that kind of support.
Sure. Well, kind of two parts to it. One was Jeff Isaac had asked me to write a brief, very short paragraph for U.S. Chess's case for support. And so I was, I'd written that, I don't know, 4 or 5 sentences, or maybe it was a paragraph. I can't even remember. Probably 2 paragraphs. But it was in my mind. It was right before the U.S. Open, and so I was there, and it was Sunil and I were talking, and I just said, I've been thinking about this. I don't know, and what do you think? The idea of so the Denker there's the Denker, which is high school kids. Then there's the Barber, and then there's the Herring now, which is the formerly the National Girls, which is K to 12 only for girls, but K to 12. So that covers the full range. And then the Barber was a K to 8 tournament. And I said, what do you think about a K to 5 tournament? How would Dwayne? I knew Dwayne at that point, but I didn't know, whether he would feel that this was inappropriate, that younger kids, or his is a K to 8 tournament. And I could have potentially approached him myself, but I just thought, I know he and Sunil are really close. It'll come across a lot better coming from Sunil. So I talked with Sunil about it, and then he approached Dwayne, and Dwayne said, yeah, that sounds great. I'll be fine with having my tournament, the K to 8, become a middle school tournament, and then a K to 5 tournament. So and US Chess approved it. So that was announced at the U.S. Open in 2019. And
this year would have been the first one, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2018. I'm sorry, right.
Oh, no.
So 2018, and then we actually ran it the first time in 2019.
Oh, okay.
But then, oh no, wait a minute. What am I talking about? It is true. No, 2020. Right, 2019 is correct. 2020 is. We're ready.
It would have been over the board first time this year. But
exactly.
We didn't have that, so we had the first time in online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's right because we're about to switch. For a year, I was off. and so then, okay, great, we'll do that. And then it was a 2019 grade nationals in Florida, where I approached Carol and said, I'd really like this to run, because I had made a 5-year commitment, but I said, look, I really want this to be around. I would like to endow it, so it'll run in perpetuity. So it'll just, it's US Chess's tournament. They have the money. They're obligated to run it, and that'll be setting it up for the future. But I said, I've been thinking about maybe a K to 1, K to 3 tournament as well. And I'd also, again, spoken with Sunil about it. He's really my mentor on these things, and I want to see if they meet with his approval, because, my experience with UHS, I really didn't start until 2016, and not seriously till really 2018, probably. So, relatively recently.
And for the viewers, just quickly, Sunil Veeramantri is the chair of the Scholastic Council, longtime scholastic supporter of US Chess. He's also happened to be the father of Hikaru Nakamura, and so we work together with Sunil. And
exactly. Even more importantly than that, he's also been on our show.
Oh, no, there we go. That's how he's really famous, right? So, and I think he's executive director of the NSCF, the National Scholastic Chess Foundation, and he actually organized one of the early K to 6 nationals, maybe 1995 or something.
Yeah.
So also, organizer as well. So yeah, he's played a lot of roles in chess, and also an author. He's wrote Great Moves and Chess Best Lessons. So 2 very good books. I really enjoy those books. But so talk with him, and he said, yeah, it sounds good. Or it meets with his approval, and then we have to, propose it to Carol. And then so she agreed to do it, and US Chess approved it. And so, but then when, this was December, right? So soon before the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, I thought, okay, this is probably going to be over in a month or 2, the way most people think, this is really going to disrupt our lives, but only for a short amount of time. So I thought of all the things I should have been doing, use this time to do something, frankly, I have about 700 board numbers that I should laminate, because I've changed the time control and the ceilings and floors. Like, finally, I'll have time to do all that stuff. And I said, no, that would be just like me. Do something different. Do something that you wouldn't normally do. And I've been meaning to read Sunil Veeramantri's second book, Great Moves, Learning History Through Chess. And so I sat down and read it. I thought, oh my gosh, it was even better than I thought. It was, and I just remember so many little details. Like one would be description of Louis. I believe his name is Louis Paulson, and he was super good at chess, good at blindfold chess as well. But his brain was so occupied with chess, he forgot other stuff. So there was this phrase, which is, "Wherever Paulson's briefcase is, he is not." And which actually kind of reminded me, I was at Supernationals once, or this was the most recent one, I think, and 2017, and I'd gotten to know Timur Graev a little bit, and so we were talking, and I was there with the Maryland and Eddie had seen Timur put his backpack down on a table, and then we started talking, and then he started to panic, and he goes, "Oh, my backpack! Where's it?" Just lost it. Like, what was going on? And then Andy's thinking, this guy can keep 48 chess games in his head, and play blindfold chess, but he can't remember where to put his backpack. So he went and retrieved the backpack because he had seen it, and it was just like one of those moments of, how is this possible?
Yeah.
But so Red Sunil's book. Oh, another example would be, speaking of things where you don't really appreciate, how the work that goes into it, right? We take chess clocks for granted, right? But when Morphy played, in the mid to late 1800s, chess clocks didn't exist. So one detail I remember is that there was a scorekeeper who was recording the games, and someone said, "Both players now asleep." You can imagine that. Because their games will go on for 12 hours, so like some guy would be completely bored, and then both of them are asleep.
So it'll almost be like a knockout in boxing. Whoever sleeps first and you count to 10, you lose.
Right. Yeah. That'd be good. That'd be good. Senior TD test or ANTD. Should you wake them up? Is that TD intervention? But for the sake of the match, should you actually wake up the player? Right. So I read that and I thought, this is great. This would be a wonderful thing for all invitationals players to experience, right? So not just prize winners. This is every invitational, because anyone who competes in an invitational has to be a state champion for either the K-1 will be the Morphy, K-3 the Maurice Ashley, the K-5 named after my grandfather, and then the Barber and the Denker, as well as the senior, who will be named after John Irwin, who was my dissertation advisor, and then the Herring, right? So each of these players will receive 5 to 7 books. And then I named it after my mother, who is a voracious reader, but not a chess reader. But so I said, okay, I'm going to honor the spirit of her reading, but I'm going to kind of tweak it in a way which runs a little counter to her nature. But she was like, yeah, I get it. I love when people read. So this sounds good. So she was happy about that.
No, great story. And John, before we sign out, is there any parting words? Anything you want to say about 2021 and what's to look forward to with regards to
2021? Can't get here soon enough. But even more than that, over the board chess can't get here soon enough. I mean, I think there's going to be a euphoria where people are just going to love.
Yeah.
And what you all are doing is right. I'll say it's what you all are doing, running online tournaments. That's going to be the connecting bridge between the kids who stop playing chess, and then maybe it kept them. I'll even tell you a silly example, or it's not silly, but just recently happened in the last 2 or 3 days. I have a friend from college, and we've gotten together for 21 years, actually, kind of a group of 5 guys, and our families gotten together, and we'd always have just a very casual, chess tournament, And sometimes the kids would, like it, not like it, whatever. But, so sometimes people come back to chess later in life. So this guy is, his son is a junior in college or junior in high school, and he just came back into chess. And so, he calls me up and says, what do you recommend? And of course I go straight into, okay, here's, so I got a US Chess Mail. So there's a tournament this weekend and the guy, he works on Lee Chess. So I figured, okay, keep his platform. So I think he might be playing in his first rated tournament online. But so it's organizers such as you all who are keeping chess alive. And thank you very much for building that bridge. It didn't exist, certainly not well enough a couple years ago, but you all have done a great job of really keeping that going. So
no, thank you for saying. The funny thing is many of our actually it's one of the proudest things, and just want to thank Judith for really helping bring all of that along. Is our club players, especially the Mechanics Institute, are a very very loyal and committed bunch. And they're it's not mostly kids, it's adults, and professionals, and just people that really love their club. And we were able to get almost all of them continuing playing online. So we've been able to carry on our Tuesday night marathons with those same players and have expanded that base. And through all of that participation online, we're finding that it's created a greater appreciation for the live play. And we're seeing that everywhere. So I, just like you said, I think we will see a euphoria once the club opens up and live chess, and I think it's a recognition of the value of the social interaction of the sport, right? Because I think we're starting to recognize that it provides that additional value that we realized it was something positive that was always there, but now we really feel it, and I think people appreciate playing over the board with someone a lot more.
Absolutely.
After
Yeah,
this
it's
fact.
just a great way to connect with your children, your grandparents, your parents, your brothers, your friends, whatever. Just it's such a wonderful way to do it, and it's really a simple game to learn. Obviously, it's really hard to get good, but you can learn the rules in about 5 minutes and be a semi-competent. You can play a game of chess after 5 minutes of learning how the pieces move. From 0 to 20 takes 5 minutes.
And I also want to emphasize the importance of US chess and really the role that they played, that we could do this. We could make the online rated. The fact that they rolled out online ratings, that was a huge effort and a really, really important step. And the fact that they did it so fast right after a pandemic hit, and they realized that it's going to happen and we have to act. I think it's a prime example how an organization should really be proactive and act. The fact that we did that online rules and the delegates approved it, and now it's in effect in September. That's also something very quick. People don't realize how much work it goes into it, and how the leadership needed to have that open mind that, well, this is change and we can't really do anything about it. But this empowered so many chess clubs around the US to do these online events and keep the players engaged. And yeah, that will be the bridge to come back. I fully believe that too, that whoever's kept engaged with chess, they will have an easier time going back to over the board tournaments. So.
Right. And Judy, you've played a huge role in that. I mean, I've seen you
It's just fun.
and your skills as a chess organizer and backroom TD are unmatched.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
there should be a title. You should Grandmaster of TDs.
She absolutely should be super GM of TDs.
Super GM. There we go. Super GM.
But no, I mean, I hope that people see when they listen these discussions. I hope to encourage them to really volunteer for US Chess. There's so many things you can do, and everyone has talents. Every one of us have talents, and if we bring those talents to US Chess, this can be a really amazing it is a really amazing organization, but they can always use their help and support anything. So,
and with Queen's Gambit, the popularity of that, there's going to be a lot of pent up interest, and I hope we don't lose that. I hope it's still there enough. So my daughter reached out to me after not having played any chess for about 5 years. She texted me and she goes, "Hey Dad, if you watch the Queen's Gambit, I'm almost done and I've got the last episode. I'm going to watch it tomorrow." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And she said, "I actually even played my first game online, at chess.com, reactivated, the kind of dormant account." And I said, "Oh, so does this mean you want to have, chess lessons because we used to have 2-hour chess lessons every other Saturday, Sunday." But okay, so I'll call our former coaches, Arkady Frankel. I said, "Okay, I'll call our Arkady and we'll set up the lessons again." She goes, "Dad," she said she had been obsessed with it. So she said, "Dad, I'm obsessed with the movie, not with it." But it got her back to playing a game, and there's going to be so many millions of that connections back to chess.
Yeah.
New connections or reigniting a connection. And then we need tournament organizers such as you all to kind of, okay, here we go. Let's go with this. This is great. So thank you very much for all you're doing.
Well, thank you for all you're doing.
And John, and thank you for coming on the show and for your support of US Chess. And we're
great way to close
nice way
year, right?
to end the year. Yeah, and on a positive note, going to the next.
Thank you. My pleasure and my honor to be here.
John.
And everyone, let's pump a little bit. We are actually going to be very, very busy from Sunday onward for 4 days. Sunday we have the opening ceremony of the Pan Ams, and then we are going to have Pan Am 9 rounds over 3 days. So tune in, and we will be broadcasting those.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of special guest commentators throughout the 3 days, including Grandmaster Sam Shanklin, Yvette Garcia Morales, and Carla Heredia. Grandmaster Patrick Wolf will commentate on the last round, a Mechanics Institute trustee and former 2-time U.S. champion. And it'll be a great show, January 3rd through the 6th, but the games Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 4th through the 6th, right here on our channel. And everyone will be made aware of it because we'll send all the promos. John, thank you for joining us, and have a great New Year.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John. Bye, guys.